most difficult stories for us to report are the ones about a child who lost their life. We are both parents, and it breaks our hearts every time we have to report these horrible incidents, especially when the death was due to abuse or neglect.
And tonight, Chief Investigator Darcy Spears now looks at the data to see how many of our children's lives are being cut short.
At least 2 grim cases made headlines recently. Children died and their parents are charged with murder. That prompted us to look closer, and we found cases you haven't heard about yet. Unfortunately, it happens more often than you think, so we started asking questions after what looked like a disturbing trend. August 23rd, a toddler reported missing. But little Deja Hunt was never really missing. Police found her body in a closet stuffed in a duffel bag. Deja's mother, Aisha Thomas, charged with child abuse and murder. Then there was this scene at Sunset Park September 2nd. 3-year-old Daniel Therio's mother telling police he couldn't be found after wandering off while she was on the phone. Authorities said her story seemed disconnected, and soon after, Daniel's body was found near Lake Mead. The boy's mother, Cassie Smith, and her boyfriend, James Therio, arrested and charged with abuse and murder.
It's hard. I mean, I'm a mother first and foremost.
We questioned Denise Tanata with the Children's Advocacy Alliance. Why and how did these things happen?
I think a lot of times when you see child fatalities, near fatalities, some of those issues in the home, a lot of that goes back to stressors in the family.
As parents, we were dismayed just like you, so we're examining the bigger picture. We turn to Nevada's Division of Family Services. They're required by state law to post information about child fatalities and near fatalities when abuse or neglect is suspected. And the first case we looked at was one that didn't make the news. The death of an 11-month-old baby boy that happened the same week as Daniel Therio's body was found. The baby was taken to a hospital on September 3rd and died 2 days later. His mother's boyfriend, Lafayette Lacey, now facing murder charges. The police report shows Lacey admitted to shaking the boy. So far in 2018, the state has posted nearly 50 disclosures, 24 of them fatal. Numbers from last year show the state reporting 39 child deaths. We've talked a lot about the numbers, but behind every number, there's a name, and behind every name, a story and a life of a child who fell through the cracks, a child who did not have to die.
Let me start by saying that any child death is a tragedy, and it's our vision to have a community where not even one of those unfortunate instances occurs.
At any given time, there are over 3,000 kids in the Clark County Child Welfare System. Tim Birch leads the agency and says the number of fatalities shows a growing need.
A need for a stronger mental health service network in our community, as well as domestic violence intervention services in our community as well.
More services means more funding and more resources. Why haven't more things been put into place so that we didn't see this time?
I think what we tend to do as a community is when we see an increase, or we have a grouping like most recently of child deaths due to some type of abuse or neglect, we focus on that and we want to find somebody to blame. But I think we as a state and as a community need to look at the broader, longer-term sustainable issues that we're not addressing.
Issues like a possible dark undertone to community tragedies like 1 October.
Major community traumatic events, there's a ripple effect within the community, and that what they've observed is an increase in child abuse and in domestic abuse and in murder rates.
Violence unrelated to the tragic event, but Tim Birch agrees that secondary trauma is very real. He also points to the opioid epidemic.
We are certainly seeing increases in drug-related deaths and abuse and neglect claims across the nation.
Our experts agree the most effective thing we can all do is bury the stigma so those in need know it's okay to get help.
3 things we could do as a community is to encourage people to get help for their own mental health, to help people get out of domestic violence, intimate partner violence situations, and to seek treatment. If you need it, or encourage a loved one or help a loved one, go and access the drug and alcohol abuse treatment they need.
We've heard from so many of you over the years, neighbors, grandparents, even parents separated from their children. You've called the police, you've called the abuse hotline, but it seems like nothing happens. Tim Birch with the county says be diligent for those children and don't give up. Keep making those calls if you suspect anything and try to be as specific as possible. In the meantime, we're putting together a list of resources on our website, ktnv.com, where you can seek help. Darcy Spears, 13 Action News.
And just to reiterate, when it comes to child safety, if you see something, say something. You need to. And here is the number for the Child Abuse Hotline, 702-399-0081. And don't forget, as Darcy mentioned, we have links to more resources on ktnv.com.